All right, so I'm pretty excited. I wanted to go over in this video, as I do with most of them, I want to show how you can do things for free. So, obviously, there's going to be so many services, so many people that you can hire. You can find softwares, you can download products, whatever it is that you need to do in order to do research, especially for your real estate investing or real estate wholesaling, whatever it is that you're doing. But I like to assume that if you're just starting out, and even if you're not just starting out, the problem is when you're not starting out, you generally don't have time to do this. It's worth it to make the investment and pay for the service or the whatever that gives you the convenience of saving you some time. But if you're just starting out, there's ways to do all of this stuff for free. So at the very least, you can do it at a very, very low cost. One of those key things that you're going to end up having to do, probably very early on, is going to be comping. So you've got to be able to comp your properties. I don't think this is something that you really need to dedicate a whole lot of time and attention to before you get a chance to even talk to your seller, um, or any seller in general. Because when it comes down to it, you can do all the research in the world, you can get comfortable with comping, but unless you start actually picking up the phone and calling them or shooting them a text or going by their house and knocking on the door, it's not going to be relevant. So this house could be the best house. You could have it, it could have like the best ARV. You could do all kinds of math that you want for it. But at the end of the day, if you try and call this guy and he cusses you out and is not wanting to, interested, or needing to sell, you've wasted your time. So I'm not going to say it's a waste of time to get used to comping. I think it's a great thing to do. But it's not necessarily something that is pivotal and essential to spend an hour on just the one single property to comp if you haven't even opened the conversation with a seller. So, one of the ways that I really like to do this for free is to use literally, I will go on and use Zillow.com recently sold and Realtor.com recently sold or just sold or whatever it is, like the equivalency for that. There are some other platforms, like if you're looking at vacant land, I want to say that the different websites like landwatch.com offer a similar function as Zillow and Realtor.com, but this is kind of the way that I do it for just very like high level overview to kind of see what all has sold, because it lets me filter as well by um, obviously when you do the search, it'll show you the distance from the property. Like you'll have a pretty good idea of how far out you're talking, but it can also filter out by timeline. So I want to make sure that I check like probably the last 6 months. If I have to, I'll push it to the past 12 months, but I prefer not to do that because especially in the past couple of years, the markets change. Like the marketplace itself changes so intensely that if you go past the 6 month mark, you're really risking um, it not actually being a comp. So I'm super excited because I figured out how to do with my little loom thing here. I figured out how to make my mouse have an indicator on it, so maybe it makes it a little bit easier for you to follow along with me as I'm browsing. But I'm gonna go over here to Zillow, and I'm just gonna find a house. Actually, we had looked at Ocala just as an example in one of the other videos, so we can go ahead and do that. Did we look at that? I think we did. So here's an example. I can remove this boundary right here. I'm on Zillow. So what I want to do is, let's say that I am looking at a property that's a 3 bedroom, 2 bath. That's my target property. So that's the house that I'm trying to wholesale or trying to buy as an investor. So if I'm looking at a 3-2, the whole point of a 3 bedroom, 2 bath comp is that if you're ending up looking at properties that are 2 bedroom, 1 bath, or 4 bedroom, 2 bath, or whatever the case may be, like the different attributes are going to affect the price of the home, to include the size of the lot, the actual construction of the house, whatever the case may be. So, like, you have to keep all those things into consideration. But for the most part, like, you're trying to keep things within the same neighborhood. Ideally, you want to stay within, like, you want to make sure you don't cross major roadways, major highways. You don't want to change zip codes. Like, in an ideal world, when you get to the point of having the softwares, you're going to go no further than a half a mile from the target property in order to pull your comps. Um, you can go a little further than that. I've had to before, especially when it's a very rural area, but it's not advised because it's going to change the neighborhood. As you change your neighborhood, you're going to change your valuation for each of the properties. You want to stay as close and as similar as possible. Um, and each of those different characteristics for the property is going to affect the value of the home in comparison to the one that you're trying to buy. So let's say that we're looking in Ocala right now. This is where Zillow landed us at. So if I'm going to go through here, first of all, I'm going to just stay here because it's going to make my life a lot simpler. I want to say, I don't know if I can do, no, I don't want to do this. I would like to show, and I'm not that great with spacing or distance, but let's say we're looking, I don't know, where are we at? This looks like a neighborhood type area, this looks promising. Okay, here we go. Let's look at this whole little region right here. You guys see this? Where it's like in between this Marshall Swamp Wildlife Preservation type thing, probably. And like this whole little area right here, this all looks like a neighborhood. Now, if I'm going to be running my comps, I want to keep it within the confines of this type of space. Even this I would almost consider it to be an outlier because it looks like it's its own little community right here. Like it's almost its own section. But if I'm working right here in this area, let's say this whole general area, I definitely don't want to, ideally, I don't want to cross this road, Maricamp Road. I definitely don't want to cross 35th. But, let's just hang out right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to check and change this. We're going to change it to sold. Let's do some more filters. I want to keep it at 3 bedroom, 2 bath because this hypothetical imaginary property that I'm trying to buy is a 3-2. So I'm going to keep it at that. I'm going to keep it at a house. I want to make sure that it's not a town. Like I want to keep it the same as what I'm trying to buy. So if what I'm trying to buy is a single family residence, I'm going to keep it checked on the houses. If it's an apartment, you have to check an apartment. You cannot compare an apartment to a house. It's literally, it has to be apples to apples as best as you can. And then here you're going to go through, you can filter some more. I like to hide 55 plus communities unless my target property is in the same community, but I don't really like them anyways. So I try not to do those. And I'm going to change my sold to the last 6 months because it looks like here we have plenty of them. Now, why in the heck do we still have so many? Oh, I guess Ocala's pretty big. So let's zoom in a little bit to make it a little easier on ourselves. So we're going to zoom in. It looks like this is actually a pretty hot market, which is not surprising, being that it's Ocala. But let's say we're just going to look right here, right? Now, what I would do is to continue to focus in. I would prefer to have too many results and have to narrow myself down than to not have enough. So if you wanted to look, let's say, let me see. Let's say we're going to focus in on this little area right here. It could be anything. But let's say, for example, our property, which is a hypothetical property, is on Hemlock Terrace. Do you see this right here, Hemlock Terrace? Let's pretend it's on Hemlock Terrace, right? So if my house is somewhere on this road, I've got a lot of options as it is because you've got this one that's 60,000. Why is it 60,000? We would have to find out. You have some that are 219, you have 265, 245. So there's a lot of different, look, 285, 280. And if you'll notice, there's dates here of when they sold. Actually, this looks like a new construction. So if my property is on Hemlock, I'm going to look ideally like around a half mile radius around my house on Hemlock Terrace. And I'm going to just go through and see. For me, I like to look at the lowest and the highest. So I'm going to check out this one that's listed that was sold for 60. Over here, it says it is sold on August the 6th of 2024 for 60,000. Why did it sell for so cheap? I don't know, but it's going to come up. whenever I end up coming across to try to buy my house, this is going to be a major point of contention. So obviously it looks like it needed to have some renovation done to it. I mean, it's not busted in the sense that it's not livable. It's actually looks really clean. But it needs to be updated. So yeah, it's outdated. You know, there's obviously features from the 90s, but if you had to, like a family could move in here. I mean, or a tenant. So it's possible that that's how it happened. It almost seems like it was probably um, put out for rent because they're saying no pets, please. I don't know. So let's see here. It says 60,000. So I'm like, okay, well, I can kind of tell when I look at the pictures real quick, I can tell, all right, it's probably because it's outdated. It needs to have some renovation done. So this one is purchased at a point where it could afford to be fixed up. It's not fixed up yet. So this is like a pre-renovation type property. Let's look at the other spectrum. If you go off of like this one, just 265, that's probably a high end. It's probably going to be nice. It's going to be really pretty. They don't have any photos. Delightful 3 bedroom, 2 bath, nestled on a lush 10,000 square foot. Blah 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 blah. Stainless steel appliances, screened in porch, fenced backyard. So it includes new double hung windows, which is hurricane rated, so they're probably impact resistant. A new roof, newer well pump. So renovations have already been done to this one. We don't know what it looks like because for whatever reason there's not any pictures here. But this is telling me that it's already been fixed up. So somebody, either the homeowner or an investor, already stepped in, did all the repairs, and they were able to turn around and sell it for the 265. And as a matter of fact, it might even show us here what the history is. Listed for sale for 280. Yeah, so the last time that it sold was back in 2020 for 162. So this is probably the person who owned it. Like somebody probably moved in and bought it. Maybe it was rented out, or it was a person like a family member or a family who moved in and did the repairs to the house. They bought it at a pretty good discount according to how much it's worth now. So now they went from the 162, they bought it last 162. About 4 years later, they listed it for the 268. See here? And then it ended up selling for 265. Not bad. Not bad. So if I want to be super fast about it, this is all I'll do. I'll just look at two. I'll look at the lowest and the highest, and that's it. And then I take that and I use it to figure out, okay, if I go to call my seller who lives on Hemlock Terrace and I ask him, hey, Mr. Seller, are you interested in selling your house? And he says, yeah, absolutely, I'll sell it, but I'm not going to sell it for any less than 325,000. I'm sorry, sir, unless your house is gilded in gold, which is not realistic, but even then, the market's not going to sustain that because there was a big beautiful house that just sold for 265 that has a new roof, new well, new, like all of these things is not going to comp. So I can already know right off the rip whether or not this seller is on a different planet. So let's say I wanted to look at another one. I just want to kind of like verify what my thoughts might be. So I can look again. This one sold for 285 back in this spring, so probably just around like the 6 month ago mark. Um, Nice extras, granite countertop, wood cabinets, plank style, no carpet, blah 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 blah. Yeah, it's probably really new. Oh yeah, see, it was a new build, so built in 2024. So now you're telling me again, this is probably, it's a brand new build that sold at 285. So it's kind of hard for somebody who is trying to sell a used home, not used, but like a pre-owned home, and they're trying to sell it for 325. It's not reasonable. It's not realistic. So especially why would I do that? Why would I overpay for your home when I could come out here and get a brand new build that still has a builder's warranty included with the purchase? So this is what I'll do. It's for free. I can verify these purchases. I can verify the sales according to the property appraiser's office or the public records. And it can give me a really good indication of whether or not the seller is just absolutely off their rocker, or if they need to consider something else for their scenario, at the very end of the day, I'm probably not your buyer. So it's helped save my time, and hopefully it'll help save you some time as well, because I don't really have the time to be messing with somebody who is not interested in actually making a realistic deal happen. So that's how I do it. I look at the least expensive, I look at the most expensive, I try to, make my determination according to what they've got going on there. And I may compare the two. Like I may end up going over to realtor.com and trying to do the same for the same area. Um, but they have a similar function as well. So if you go over here, just sold in this area, it'll pop up a map. Um, you should be able to get to the map here. And once you get to that map, you can probably do the same exact thing of seeing what's just sold in that particular area. Yep, there you go. Do it on a map. And then I'm going to zoom in and make sure I'm looking at the houses very close to Hemlock, which is my imaginary property. So yeah, hope this helps. Hopefully we get to talk soon. Hit a like if you like it, hit a dislike if you don't like it, hit me a comment, drop it below, and see what I'd be happy to answer whatever questions I can. Yeah, let's get to work. Bye.